Hello, and today we're getting to the meat of your live streams, and we're going to talk more about stories. Simple ways to inject some stories into your live stream to make it a lot more interesting, exciting, and also for your audience to get to know a bit more about you. So let's get on with our story for today. Hello, I am Charlene Tessier, the founder of Strength and Numbers, and I'm helping you use strategic live streaming so that you can find your audience online and fill your courses, workshop, and live events. Now, everybody's heard of some stories, right? We all heard that stories are amazing, and they're, of course, simple ways to inject into your content, whether you do it in written form, podcast form, only audio, video. Stories are a huge part of our lives, and you've probably all heard this before. And many of you have heard, of course, of the hero's journey, right? That's kind of a basic framework that a lot of people have been talking about. And it's the most common framework. And we're going to talk about the 5 parts of the story today. But instead of getting into the sort of mechanics, I want to talk a bit more about how you can actually use some interests and hobbies about yourself and bring them into parallel into your live stream, because often there is a bit of a disconnect I see with live streams. When people want to inject personality, they will go live and talk about things that are happening in their personal lives, and those are really great. However, when you create those streams without a purpose and to connecting it back to why the audience is actually watching this, because they may be coming to you for a completely different reason, you start to actually create a bit of disconnect and your streams won't perform quite as well. So how do we inject stories that are in alignment with what we are trying to convey to our audience? But first, let's look at the 5 basic parts of the story, because you need to know that in order to even do this. And so the first part is the opener. That's always the problem, the challenge, the obstacle. What are they trying to overcome, right? There is a problem and they want to overcome that. The next second part is the inciting incident that changes everything, right? So the person is kind of going along their way. They know they have this problem, challenge, obstacle, but they don't do anything about it. For them, it's not kind of annoying enough, or there's not enough pain there for them to really do anything. So they're sort of traveling forward like this, and then something happens. That's the inciting incident, where now whatever problem or challenge or obstacle gets exasperated, right? It becomes so much that this now causes them to decide to do this, to move, right? They got to, this is inciting some kind of action. Now then, many kind of failures happen as they kind of go along to get to the resolution of their problem or challenge. And of course, this builds up tension, because you're wondering, are they going to be able to do it? Are they going to have success? Oh no, they failed at it again. Oh, they tried this. Oh, that failed too, right? But eventually it gets to a climactic point where there is, of course, a change happens, a pivot happens, and they resolve their problem, obstacle, or solution. And like I said, the hero's journey has a few more elements into it, but I want to keep it very, very simple. And actually keeping it very simple like this is a way for you to work your personal stories in, even though you think they may not work, into your live streams. And the stories you build don't have to be super long and complicated and sophisticated. You can actually, and I often do this, is I try to just have one sentence for each part of these stories. And maybe there'll be 2 sentences to build a little attention, but you really don't need much. And a very small short story like that can still be enough to be engaging and draw interest to your audience. The other thing that it brings in is, of course, the audience gets to know you at a deeper level because you usually speak about one kind of topic or niche, right? So I speak only about live streaming on LinkedIn and how to do that successfully. Of course, I have many other interests and hobbies. I like to do all kinds of other things. And these interests and hobbies, um, I want to try to work these learnings kind of into my live streams, right? So to bring more engagement. But you always want to try to stick to your topic by creating some kind of parallels. So let me see here. Um, that way, the parallels will ensure that the thing you're trying to, information you want to convey to them is the right information. And it's not um, your random story that, again, doesn't drive to your purpose. And so that is why we also do pre-planning, right? And another reason to have some stories is because over time it can get kind of dry and almost a bit overly analytical if you don't inject a bit of mix into your stories. Oh, we have a comment. Oh, and thanks, Nancy. She put a little comment there. That's always nice. So let's continue on. And I'm going to show you an example, right? So we want to bring some stories so that we can keep it fresh and exciting and interesting. And use stories about the things that you're interested in your life, in your personal life, and draw out ways that you will be able to do that. So I'm going to actually build one on the spot here right now. And I'm going to build one in parallel with live streaming. So the opener of my story is I actually, when I was very, very young, uh, like many children, have to learn a musical instrument. And I ended up choosing to learn cello. So many people don't know that about me. And learning a musical instrument, if anybody has ever done so or have done for a very short time in their life, you'll know that it takes a lot of time to do that. It's not very easy. And it can be extremely challenging and frustrating, and many people do end up giving up. Now, the thing that happened to me is that I ended up being the only child in the group of at the music at school. It was kind of mandatory at that time in the public school. Everybody had to choose an instrument. You could choose violin, you could choose viola, you could choose cello, you could choose bass. I ended up being the only child to choose cello, and everybody else chose violin. I don't know why. I thought that was a bit odd, but that's how it ended up being. And you would have thought, oh, being the odd duck out, I probably would have just given up and, you know, just kind of conform to everybody else. But by choosing cello, it was actually I chose it by sound. So my mother played me some different audio pieces of each of the instrument, and I chose it purely by hearing, and that I really love the sound. And I just really kind of loved it and got into practicing, and being um, a child who really, really loved cello. Um, and what was happening was that in the beginning it was very hard because I was the only one, so there wasn't other ones to sort of lean on, and so I had to, of course, get support from some private instruction and from actually the support from the school and stuff like that. But I really did persevere, and I really did love learning it, and so I continued on actually, and played, and I still continue to play music actually until now. And I love it a lot. It's something that if I didn't really persevere in the beginning, I might have given up. But the act of doing, the act of having support from teachers and family made it that I really enjoyed music, and I really enjoyed being in multiple orchestras and chamber groups. And it kind of, in high school, took over my life. It was almost like part-time job. Uh, and what does this have to do with live streaming? Well, live streaming is very similar to those. If you ever played an instrument, and if you've ever been in an orchestra, In an orchestra, the main goal of it is to practice really for performance. And knowing that you have that performance at the end is what drives you to get better, right? To rehearse, to do more practices, to keep getting ready for it, and to um, just get ready for the performance, because people are going to be there watching you and are going to view this, right? And live stream for me is very similar to performing in the orchestra, in that you can't just show up. If you just show up unprepared, people in the audience are kind of going to know, right? So having you go live, planning your live and scheduling it so people know you're going to go live, drives you actually to improve your craft of being able to deliver content better, to incorporate stories, to incorporate more interesting things in your live stream through rehearsal. And to be honest, you can rehearse and rehearse as much as you want, but you eventually have to do it live to really learn, because going live is completely different. Just like performing live to an audience is completely different. You're under stress. There are different factors. But to get over those factors, you need to first rehearse, and you need to keep going live, keep performing over and over again. And so my story was a little rough because I did not really plan that story too much before this talk. I had several stories in mind, but the story I thought was the most relevant. And this is a way that you can incorporate stories into your live streams, and you can see that a story that didn't really have a direct link to, oh, you got a live stream, you have to do this, and a bit about my personal life can be incorporated into your live stream in a way that is very engaging. And you can share a bit more about yourself. And we have a story expert coming to our panel at the end of this month, which is actually already next week. I know, I can't believe it. The month is nearly done. You don't want to miss it. This is one day only live interactive panel. Elizabeth Johnson is going to be there. She is our story expert, and she really helps you to bring in your origin stories or stories, personal stories, into your business. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you have. And stories really do engage people. And as you can see, I'm still learning stories. Stories is something, it's a skill. It's just like practicing live stream. The more you do it, the first few times it's going to be rough, and it's always going to be a little bit tough and a little bit tricky, and you're going to have some fall downs. But it's well worth it skill to rehearse and try and to incorporate as much as you can. So I really do recommend that. And as you know, Nancy Czar, who's so lovely, she was around. And let me take that banner off, came, and she's going to be there as well. She is our sales expert, and she makes sales less icky, less awkward, and very genuine and relationship based. So I highly recommend that you're there, and check out the link below. It is free, and I will see you then. Have a great day.